This is Jeff Glass with the Jeff Glass Podcast, and I'm really excited to be here with you today. This is our first official podcast, and the startup to this point has been a journey, and I'll be sharing that with you as we move forward. But I wanted to start out with a story. Those of you who know me or follow some of my material online, I'm a storyteller, and by trade, I've worked in teaching in different outfits from juvenile probation to Boys and Girls Club, to college level coaching. I've done entrepreneurship, both as an entrepreneur for many years and also as a teacher of entrepreneurship. But I want to start out with a story I just finished. We're sending it in for editing and publishing, so you're going to be able to hear it the first time here. And the story here is I Want to Be a Man by Jeff Glass. And here it goes. So you're hearing it here for the first time, and if you do like it, then eventually you'll be able to get a copy of the book. But it goes as such. I can hardly wait until I'm a human being, no hairy back, with my skin always clean. I won't have to live in the jungle and hunt for food. I can order what I want and have TV to help my mood. I will have shelter to protect me from the rain and every pleasure at my fingertips to help ease any pain. I think I will have a real job and work for the man. I will make a bunch of money and store up all I can. I will buy more than I need and worship useless toys. I will pass this consumer behavior on to my girls and boys. They will grow up and pay taxes and do their part, at least 50% of their wages from the very start. My kids won't even have to take care of each and every need. They will have the government to control their desires and protect them from greed. The elite minority will steal from the masses and consume everything around. They will spray the skies and poison the ground. They will brainwash kids from the day they are born, but for every problem they don't solve, it's the people they will scorn. Now that I think about it and ponder becoming a man, perhaps I should reconsider this naive primitive plan. It's not much different than being in cages at the zoo. I thought humans were all about do unto others as you'd like done to you. Life, slavery, and the pursuit of illusions, it seems. What I thought was a reality was only in my dreams. The greatest slave is the one with the illusion to be free. People are the controlled product, but too blind to see. Give them another slice, another piece, another set of crumbs. They will believe they are kings when they are peasants, paupers, beggars, and bums. They fooled these people for some time as they worked hard to watch each dollar turn into less than a dime. In the end, the system might fall, but until then, I want nothing from it. No part of it at all. Thank God I have some sense to use my own mind. I've realized when it comes to being a human, I'm nothing like their kind. I'm better to take care of myself, my family, and leave others alone, instead of waiting on those in power to throw me a picked-apart bone. I wish not to evolve and just stay as I am, appreciate this earth, live a simple life, while loving others the best I can. I share this story with you as I was teaching in schools and different programs, and I addressed this idea of retention and learning what we do in school. How much do we carry to our career? I was up at Skywalker Ranch visiting a friend, and his name is Milton, and Milton has worked for George Lucas, and we were at Skywalker Ranch, which is a beautiful place. And we were in a conversation talking about education. And I asked him, I said, you went to Harvard, you went to Stanford, and I've been reading these stories, Milton, that by the time people go to career, or they leave school and they go and start their first job, that they retain about 10% of what they learned. And Milton's reply was, Jeff, I don't think that's correct. It's actually much less. And I said, well, this is a problem. If I packed your bags at O'Hare and you arrived at LAX and 90% plus of your stuff is missing, I think you'd have some questions for me. You might even be a little bit upset. What happened? Why haven't we addressed this problem in education? The amount of time and money that your parents put into you going into really great schools, expensive schools, high investment. Wouldn't you want the value, the information retained to be higher than the 10%? And I thought about this, and I was talking to him. I said, well, what if this is reversible? And I think of movies that I watched when I was younger and I haven't seen in a long time. And I know almost all the lines to Dumb and Dumber. If you put it on, I'm going to recite it as the movie goes. I didn't study. I didn't take a pop quiz. I didn't, try to refresh my mind on what the movie was about. I just remembered it because I liked it. I dug the movie. And I think that's the approach we need to have with teaching is we need to get people interested to really dig learning. Elon Musk was mentioning that we need to make learning as much like a video game as possible. You don't have to discipline your child to play video games. You don't have to tell them, hey, it's video game time. I need you to get it done. They're going to naturally gravitate towards something that's stimulating and fun for them. So if we can bring those worlds together, and it's not about pointing out just what the problems are of education, because I think anybody can point out a problem. They give PhDs to people that can write a paper about pointing out a problem. But bringing solutions, we have to find out what the problem is. It's like on a GPS. If you're looking for directions to something, you're not going to get to where you want to go unless you put in exactly where you are. You have to take a hard inventory of where you are, a very exact location to get to the location you want to be at the right time. So looking at that in our system, saying, what is it that we need to address to make this interesting, make it fun? So I started writing stories and teaching in stories and assigning characters and animals. And it doesn't matter if it's a child or it's an adult. Our minds remember stories, remember protagonists, antagonists, we remember plot lines. And if we could take that education stuff that we want to put in, analogy I heard somebody said, like putting the pill in the dog food, right? The dog's not going to want to take the pill or something that it needs for its health or its heart or whatever. But if we know that dog needs that, we're going to put it in something that it's going to gravitate toward. So when we take something that's very important and we put it into a source that people like, people love stories. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I know I'm not alone on that. I'm really into movies like Braveheart and Rocky because we love these underdog type stories. So I realized that these are problems that it's not good enough to just point them out. We have to solve them, but I can't solve them alone. So I started building, strategic partnerships and communities around these ideas. Started publishing books. Alpha Heroes is a comic book series that my son and I have published together, but it's allegory. There's pills in the dog food. There's information in there that I believe, like my wife says, provoke thought. And that's really my objective with this podcast, is not to drive you to a certain idea. It's to have you look at both sides of an idea and not dismiss something that's as silly just because someone's saying it. If somebody comes to me and believes that there's purple unicorns, I want to hear their idea. And I use that as what could be a seemingly silly illustration. But if somebody believes that there's round earth or flat earth, I want to hear what they have to say. If my son has questions, I want him to arrive at his own conclusions, his own thoughts, and not dismiss something because it sounds silly or stupid. And I think that's the exact opposite of intelligence, is when we arrive at something and think we have it all figured out. We don't. But I think it's one of the most damaging things we could do to children, to their mindset, to remove them from critical thinking. We need to be hunting for answers instead of just waiting and expecting something to be just handed to us. When I was first married, I lived in Camino, California with my wife. She was sharing a story that she read. She was reading it to me, but to give you a backstory before she shared it with me, we found out that we both wanted to be forest rangers when we were young. For me, it was Smokey the Bear coming to the classroom, and I was probably over it by recess, but I thought it was really cool to go help Smokey. And my wife, I think, still wants to be a forest ranger today in some way. But to me, it was short-lived, like a lot of young, youthful ideas. But she shared from this story that was rather disturbing that the hardest part about being a forest ranger, a park ranger, is all the dead bears they have to pick up every year. And the reason why took a little bit of discovery. It wasn't because the bears have issues with, the overdoses of sugar or of anything like that. It wasn't the food itself that was killing them. The forest rangers posted, "Don't feed the bears, don't feed the bears." But sure enough, what happened? People fed the bears. And the bears became dependent upon the campers, and they died. They forgot how to hunt. A camper who could probably get his behind whooped by a bear was completely positioned just organically to disarm the bear by allowing them to eat food that they weren't supposed to eat. It wasn't appropriate for their digestive system, but really what it killed first was their mind, their primitive instinct, their ability to hunt. I'm in Generation X. My generation is the first generation in American history that represents men that don't know how to build our own shelter. We forgot how to build, and I think we forgot how to hunt. We forgot how to go out and look for something, and we've expected things to be handed to us. And that points back again to this conditioning pattern that happens in education. In education, you go to kindergarten, you go to middle school, you go to high school, right? Then where do you go from high school, right? You go to college, and then you go to where, right? It's a drop off a lot because we're taught to just go on this progression, but it's just a pattern that we're following. But maybe it's a pattern that we need to break, because when I was coming into schools, I wasn't a licensed school teacher. I'm still not. I was what you call a layperson. I'd come in and I'd teach entrepreneurship and economics, what they call soft skills, which I don't know why. It seems to me like they should be called the important skills or the critical skills. When we were teaching that, I had a team that would come in and teach with me at times. The feedback was from some of the administrators and teachers is, yes, we just don't have time to teach students those things. My natural inherent response was, what do you have time for? What do you consider important when they go to job? These students are getting a 20% on a pop quiz. They're disconnected from their audience. They're going to learn more from that first employer than they're going to learn from school, because it's going to be real. It's going to be visceral. They're going to get paid to do a job and take somebody on a date and put gas in their new vehicle. When something's real, when something's tangible, we remember it more. Entertainment, tangible. So they don't have time for this. Instead of arguing with it, I realized that a lot of them were a product of conditioning as well. This is what they were taught. This is what stems down from administration. We're going to teach STEM. We're going to teach science, technology, engineering, and math. But there's something missing. That there's people that need to create these jobs, that need to create these platforms. And I believe one of the most powerful things you can teach somebody is reinforcing something that they're already built for, which is imagination, innovation. And I think it's one of the highest levels of intelligence that we don't measure, that we don't lean into. My son is a published author at 8. My daughter is going to be a published author at 7. My oldest daughter is recording her first music album. These are their dreams. My job as their dad is to make their dreams come true. And I want a team. I don't want to be alone. I want the schools. I want family members. I want people that are going to help. But the only way we inspire is by doing it ourselves. And so bringing out each one of my children, what are their dreams to create? So when my son and my daughter, I present a picture to me and I put it on the fridge and I tell them, oh my gosh, it's so wonderful. I mean, if you're a parent, you've seen it. There's scribbles all over. It's outside the lines. It's not, something you're going to send into necessarily, an art gallery, but it's my gallery. It's what's beautiful to me. The best Christmas and birthday presents are the things I can't buy for myself. And my kids will want to get me something. I said, don't buy me something, just draw me something, create something from your mind for me. And I tell my kids that you're beautiful and you're brilliant. And they say, I know, Daddy. So at what age do I tell them to start being humble? To stop being proud of who they are? They were created to do wonderful things. And school is conditioning our children to be like everybody else. Look at the testing. It's about individuality. And an individuality is a very lonely road. It's not a road to success. It's sitting on the other side of a conversation of a guy who's 56 years old with 2 degrees, one in, I believe, in aeronautics. And he said, hey, I'm driving for Uber because I can't find a job. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. Nothing wrong with Uber if you're working for Uber. But that wasn't his dream. That wasn't his goal. There was a pattern that he followed, that he believed in, that failed him. But we can't afford to be a victim. We can't be the dead bears. At the end of the day, we're still responsible for our own hunt, for our own pack, for our own team. We're in 2022. We're post-COVID. What happened during that time? We went dormant. We went inside because we were told to. We sat down and covered our faces because we were told to. We didn't talk about certain things online because we were told to. And that bear inside of us is angry. It's upset. And it doesn't want to be lonely anymore. It wants to connect with other human beings, build communities. That's where your success is found. Build with other people that have the same interests as you, that have the same goals as you. As an entrepreneur for a very long time, I thought it was just about staying busy and how much can I work? And then here I am working 80, 90 hours a week. And then I marry a woman who just works to live. And I was living for work because that was my conditioning. That's what I was taught. Not by school. I was raised by rebellious entrepreneurs, thank God, but it wasn't necessarily everything that I needed to apply forward. So where do we go? What do we do now? How do we create? How do we connect? How do we build community? Well, it's online and offline because people want to experience relationships. People want to receive value. And that's the theme of this podcast today is if you're here, you're visiting, if you're an audience of 1 or an audience of 1 million, that's not my focus. My focus is if you're here and it's just you, are you getting value out of this time today? Are you getting value out of hearing this? Does this resonate with you somewhere? And if it does, then stay with us on this journey. We're going to be unpacking some things. We'll be talking to some folks. Even though this is the Jeff Glass Show, the Jeff Glass Podcast, it's not just about me. It's about our community. So I look forward to going on this journey with you. I thank you for being here. And until next time, talk to you then.